I don't want to criticise him. To be fair, it didn't actually sell more tickets having Steven Bartlett.
What was it in Steven that you saw before anyone else did?
I knew he was someone really exciting. He's on Dragon's Den and he's got his podcast now and he's well known, but there's a lot of people who had never heard of him until that event, and then they instantly became fans.
What would you say that you learned from Steven Bartlett about social media?
Get a more watertight contract. It doesn't matter how good your idea is or your product or service, if no one knows about it, you're not going to be successful. No one wants to tell you what the budget is, and you don't want to tell them what your day rate is. So if someone has to, if they say, yeah, no problem, you're probably undercharging.
Do you think a true entrepreneur is born, or do you think it's something that you have to learn? So today we are joined by superconector Paul Lancaster. Paul, how are you doing?
I'm doing great.
Honestly, mate, this term, superconnector, now I like to think of myself as a connector, but superconnector, obviously, there's going to be a lot of people thinking, well, how can you be a superconnector? Can you explain what that actually means?
Yeah, so a long time ago I read a book called The Tipping Point by Malcolm Gladwell. It's quite a famous book now. But in that he talked about how there's lots of great ideas in the world, but most fail. But the ones that succeed tend to have three types of people involved in it. So they have people that are called mavens, so people who just love finding out about new things, new ideas. You have connectors, people who don't just tell one or two people about that idea, they'll go out of their way to tell all the people that they think would be interested in that idea. And then you have marketeers or sales people involved in that process as well. So if you get those three groups of people together around an idea, you're gonna be successful, or you're more likely to be successful. And when I read that book, I thought, well, I'm definitely a maven. I love finding out about new things, and I love telling people about it. I love sharing that knowledge with others, and I'm pretty good at marketing as well. So I thought, right, I'm going to set out to be the best possible person that combines those three things. So then I started calling myself a super connector.
So I get, first and foremost, that was a wonderful way of breaking that down. But I think the first thing that would pop into my mind if I was watching this podcast was, okay, so you're a super connector, but how do you actually make money?
That's a good question. So I'm stalling here a little bit. So I think that's the thing, like a lot of it just comes around in other ways. So it's not directly, I do spend a lot of time helping others, and I do signpost people and bring people together, but I'm very good at building audiences. So whether that's online or in person through the events that I run. My background is inbound marketing, content marketing, social media. So I'm good at understanding how to find people's relevant audience. And so it's changed over the years. Like sometimes I've had paid jobs where it's been my job to do this, and very intangible. I just get paid a salary, and then people just say do whatever it takes to connect people and signpost people. But then since starting my own business in 2016, I've done a bit of consultancy work. I get sponsorship for events that I run, or I sell tickets for events that I do. But a lot of the things that I think that add the most value, I don't get paid to do. Mm-hmm. So I have to find other ways to make money.
It's often the case though, isn't it? I've personally been to Newcastle Startup Week, which was your event, and I've been there, and it was a wonderful experience because I feel like a lot of people in the North East, especially when you're, whether you are starting up or even if you've got a business and it's kind of off the ground a little bit, I feel like a lot of people could definitely use some kind of guidance or have some kind of hub that they can all go and connect with like-minded people, obviously be led by people like yourself, and just have that safe place. And I feel like, from my experience, and I've been to a lot of different events up and down the UK, and I feel like there's nowhere that really puts it together how you've done that. How did you learn how to organise such a, for one, successful event, but secondly, make people feel like they've got somewhere where they can truly get guidance?
Thank you for saying that. I'm glad you felt that. So I think it's, in the past I have had jobs where I've been paid to be a business advisor, business consultant, and what I found was I knew where all the information was. I was like, it was my job to know where to go for that help and advice, and I was reading all these books and going to all these events, but I was finding most people don't know that, and nobody else was pulling these types of events together, and I was asking other people to do these events. I just thought, well, no one else is going to do it, I might as well do it. I don't know, I've just created an event that I think gives people an opportunity to find all the best help and advice in one place, and also build a bit of a community, which is an overused term, but a community of like-minded people. If you're in a room full of other business owners or entrepreneurs or people who are in a positive mindset, it feels more achievable. It feels like that you can bring your ideas to life, because a lot of people don't have friends or family who have their own businesses, and it's hard if you're trying to do it on your own, and if you don't have that network around you. But I've just created an opportunity for people to find that ready-made audience or that ready-made network.
What's happening, guys? I hope you're enjoying the episode so far. If you are, please hit that like, hit the subscribe button, and press the notification bell so you don't miss another episode.
Because I know that you call yourself the superconnector, but I'd probably call you Mr. Startup. And the reason I say that, obviously, you know, a lot of what you've done is predicated on startups. What was the reason that was the particular type of person you wanted to help? Like, have you had experience where you've tried to start businesses in the field, or is there something where you've needed effectively the event that you've set up?
Yeah, probably created an event that I wanted for me. I just love ideas. I love innovation. I love creativity. My background many years ago, I was a semi-professional DJ producer. Had my own club nights. Had my own little record label, and a bit of a cliche, but I was a proper creative where I was just doing it for the love of it. I wasn't very commercially minded. I wasn't trying to make money out of it. I just loved the creativity of bringing things to life. So I don't know. I've just kind of I've forgotten the question.
So in terms of, like, obviously you doing the startups for people, was there a certain, obviously I know you've just said there about you were a DJ, but was there a certain reason why you thought there's a thirst or an appetite for that, like helping people start businesses? I
mean, some ways just influenced by the roles that I've done, like my own personal experiences of just being drawn to creative people and entrepreneurial people, and then I've just spotted an opportunity. Classic entrepreneur, I suppose. I've just thought there's a gap in the market here for these types of events. But I just think startup is, for me, a startup isn't just, it's like anyone who wants to bring a new idea to life or start something new. So you could be an established business that wants to bring a new product or service to life. The events are still relevant to you as well. It's not just brand new businesses.
Well, what I love about your work, Paul, is, and I don't mind sharing it, because I've met a lot of entrepreneurs in my own journey. With you in particular, it's like you're always in the Northeast. It's like you're very focused on helping the people where you're from. Is that something that, because for me, if I was to set up an event, I'd be like, right, okay, where's the most entrepreneurs? Is it the Northeast? Maybe I'd go to Manchester, do it there. There's probably more clout, more influence I can get on social media to these events. Why are you so... Is it literally because you're from the Northeast? Is that why you want to help or is it? Do you want to help the UK? Anyone in the UK, or is it like a Northeast thing?
It's a Northeast thing. I think the need is greatest in the Northeast. The Northeast of England is like low down in the rankings for entrepreneurial activity. I think there's still all these years later a hangover from the decline in heavy industry. If you read all the research, it shows that people are still focused on just getting a job rather than creating a job or creating a business because of that. You know, people used to work in the factories, they used to work in the mines, they used to work in the steelworks, and as a replacement for that, there's a lot of employment in the public sector, but the research shows that when you've got high employment in public sector, it dampens entrepreneurial spirit. So there is definitely an attitude of, just go and work for the council or go and work for the public sector because it's a steady job and it's a safe job. But I don't know, there's a lot of big organisations make people redundant, and they're not always the best or most fulfilling roles. But I've travelled around the UK. I've had roles where it's been UK-wide roles, but the gap, I think, is in the Northeast. And I've been to Manchester, I've been to Leeds, I've been all over, and it frustrates me that the Northeast is still lagging behind.
Do you think it's getting any better though?
I felt like it was, like pre-lockdown. I felt like it was. But maybe that was just my perspective, I felt like there was a lot of momentum building, but it's probably 10, 15 years in the making. Do you know what I mean? And then I think we're falling behind again, and I think we've got to get that going again. So I'm trying to pick up where I left off. But I'm still very focused on the Northeast, but I want to make an event that's of national and international significance. So I am actively attracting people from outside of the region to come to the event. And the last Startup Week event I did in 2019, I did have a lot of people came from all over the UK and overseas, came to the Northeast. So that's something I was really, really proud of.
It's unbelievable. I mean, I know you've had the likes of STEVEN Bartlett at your events.
Mm-hmm.
How did that impact your event, having someone like STEVEN on? Did you feel like you got a lot of people there just to see STEVEN, or do you think that actually had a positive impact for people in this space?
I know STEVEN. He's getting a bit of flack at the minute, so I don't want to criticise him. But to be fair, it didn't actually sell more tickets having STEVEN Bartlett, because he wasn't quite the name he was now. I could see he was on the rise, and I'd been following him for a few years, and I'd been messaging him a bit, and I knew he was someone really exciting, and he was the type of person I wanted to speak at the event, because I knew he would wow people, and people go away feeling really excited having seen him. But it didn't actually sell any extra tickets for me, because he just wasn't known in the Northeast. But I think having someone like him on stage, there was just over 800 people there to see him, and I think he gained 800 followers, new fans off that event. And there's definitely, he's on Dragon's Den, and he's got his podcast now, and he's well known. But there's a lot of people who had never heard of him until that event, and then they instantly became fans. And I think that made some people sit up and take notice, either at the event or after the event. People are like, bloody hell, you had STEVEN Bartlett speaking at your event.
Well, I think that's what's really interesting about you, Paul, because I feel like I would say that's true entrepreneurship, when you can spot opportunities before they become a thing. What was it in STEVEN that you saw before anyone else did?
I mean, well, I'd been spending quite a bit of time in Manchester as well, so that was a bit of, although I'm very focused on the Northeast, so in order of priority, it would be like Northeast first, then it would be the North, then it would be the wider UK. So that was, I guess, me thinking, I want to make this more of a northern thing, so let's get someone really exciting from Manchester to the Northeast. And I'd just seen him speak, and I'd been following him, and knew how charismatic he was, and exciting journey, exciting personal story, but also genuinely exciting business leader, entrepreneur as well, who was not just going to inspire people about himself, but he was going to finish with some practical tips and advice on how to do digital marketing and social media, which he did. I think he did about 45, 50-minute talk, and about 35 minutes was about his journey, and then he finished with some really insightful tips and advice on how to do digital marketing and social media well, and where the future trends were going. So
I guess you know what question I want to ask next then. So what would you say that you learned from STEVEN Bartlett about social media?
Get a more watertight contract. No, again, I don't want to criticize him too much, but he didn't do anything to promote it on social media in the run up to it, which was frustrating for me, because like that's one of the reasons why I wanted him to speak, because I could see he was building a follower, and there was a lot of attention around him. And although I paid him to speak at the event, he didn't do any promotion in the run up to it, unlike other speakers do a lot of promotion. So that was disappointing for me, because I was hoping I would tap into some of his clout and his network, and he didn't do that. So, but in terms of personal brand, fantastic, and he did tweet a lot of really good stuff about the event straight after the event, and there was, he said some fantastic things about the event. What a great conference it was. So I could use that in future, and I've got some good video clips of him as well talking about it. But I don't know, he's been very good at his own personal brand, and I don't know, and maybe I'm not Stephen Bartlett, but maybe I could be a bit more Stephen Bartlett with what I do.
But what would you say that from what you took from someone like Stephen, what would you say that you could? What advice could you give to someone to help them grow their own personal brand? Because 2024, it is the thing that I would advise myself people work on. It's something that I'm trying to work on. A lot of my clients, I'm trying to push it for them as well. And I feel like personal brand now has almost overtook having a business.
Yeah.
Because the bigger your personal brand is, yes, your business can be more successful, but you can actually get individual opportunities. You can get different sponsorship deals. It's just you can have a much longer, or you can have more longevity in whatever you're doing if your personal brand's bigger. What do you know that could help you grow your personal brand?
I think it depends what you want to be known for. Because like the Gymshark CEO, I saw him share a video the other day where he said for the first few years of him running Gymshark, he didn't do anything. Like he wasn't about building his personal brand. He was so focused on building the business, and then it's more recently that he's raised his profile once he's already been successful. I think some people are so focused on their own personal brand, and it detracts from the business. I've definitely seen a lot of that.
Yeah.
Where people they think that just by raising their profile, people are going to want to buy their products or services. And it depends on the type of business that you've got. I mean, I've also seen other people who are so well known or so good at promoting themselves online. People just assume that they're successful. People are, oh, you don't need my help, or you don't need my business because you're already a millionaire, or you're already, and those people are still struggling behind the scenes. So it's difficult. It's a fine balance.
It's interesting,
like I think I'm well known in the Northeast in particular. Certain circles I'm well known, but I don't promote myself a lot. I'm active, and I do share a lot of content, or I used to share a lot of content, but a lot of it was around things I was working on, or the events, or people I was working with. It was less about me, but by association, it was promoting me.
Because you've dealt with obviously a lot of people over the years, Paul, and helped a lot of people. Do you think a true entrepreneur is born, or do you think it's something that you have to learn?
I think you become one by the people that you hang around with, or the things that you do, or the books you read, or the events you go to. So I definitely think if you don't think you're entrepreneurial, or you're not entrepreneurial, you can become entrepreneurial by going to events like my platform events and monthly events, or the startup week events, or hanging out with others who are. Even if you're in a job, I think there's definitely a lot of companies want people who are entrepreneurial in a job. So the phrase being an intrapreneur as well. There's a lot of companies want that. They want someone or groups of people that can come up with new ideas and new ways of doing things without breaking the existing company. So I think, and it goes back to creativity. It's like looking at what's out there, what's available, what's going on at the moment, and how can things be improved, and how can you do things differently. It's not always about inventing something completely brand new out of scratch, from scratch. It's often about looking at something that's already happening and applying it in a different way. That's where a lot of innovation happens. So I think the broader your interests and the wider your network, the more entrepreneurial can be.
I know you said earlier on about obviously companies and that, and you know a lot of people get made redundant and things like that. Do you think there's a problem with the school system? Like, you're just taught to get a job, go to uni and stuff. Are you against that? Like, do you think everyone should have a go at starting a business?
I don't think everyone should do it. No, I don't think it's right for everyone. I mean, I can't really criticize education too much because I went to university, but like, it's not benefited me in any way. I went to university, then I left. I didn't get a graduate job. I just got a job that I could have got if I didn't go to university. but it was a very successful company. It was Sage, the accountancy software company, and I learned a lot. That was really excellent training working for a company like that, FTSE 100 company here in Newcastle. So I worked in tech support, learned a lot about customer service. That's probably my first experience about helping people, when I realised that I like helping people, I like problem solving, I like fixing things, I like sharing that knowledge, and it's going to help others be more successful. But I don't know, I don't think, I've just learned, like I say, just over the years, I've just got into situations where I've been drawn to being more entrepreneurial, but I don't think it's right for everyone.
So, all the people who you've came across over the years, Paul, is the things that stand out to you where you're like, yeah, you've got that thing to become an entrepreneur or to be successful?
Oh, yeah.
If so, what are those things?
There's definitely people I've met where just straight away I'm just like, you're amazing, like you're going to be successfl, and you're just so passionate. But passion is a big thing. Like if someone's really into what they're doing, that enthusiasm, that energy is infectious. I think people are drawn to that, definitely. Some people are just like laser focused on what they're doing as well. I've met people like that where it's scary how focused they are, and like you can just feel it again. There's something about the energy. I think people are just drawn to energy.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Everything's energy, and if someone's like can't be arsed or they're not really into it, it's a bit of a turn off. It's like subliminal, you don't know it. But if someone's really excited about what they're talking about or how they're talking about it, you want to be part of that. You want to be in the room with them, or you want to be part of whatever they're talking about.
That's why, like, when it comes to doing this podcast, I'm very selective with who I get on, because I'm drawn to certain people as well. And for me, anybody who I get on, I feel like there's some value there, and I just want to help someone watch it. Like, if someone's watching or listening, I want them to have something to take away. Like, I don't care what it is, whether someone from, I've had people on from the crime background and stuff, like the crime fraternity, and it's not about glorifying crime. It's how to stay away from it. And it's the same as I've had people who suffer with mental health and how they can help people and stuff like that. And it's the same as this. When it comes to business, it's something that I've tried for years to do, and I've failed so many businesses, and it just hasn't worked out. Then I went to uni and I did this and got them all, like, different jobs, and they were dead end jobs, and I felt like almost like the ladders were against the wrong wall analogy. Like, I almost felt like I was going somewhere, but not where I really wanted to be. Felt a bit empty, didn't know where I wanted to go. Then I got into my business, and I was like, I didn't know what I wanted to do, but I just knew that if I married me passion with connections, I mean, that's why I call myself a bit of a connector, because like I know that many people. I thought, why don't I just offer them my service? And if they like me, they might just take to that. And what I found is, it's not necessarily the service, it's me.
Yeah.
Like that, and that's without trying to blow me on trumpet. And I feel like that's, again, with you, because you're a leader and a connector and you have these events, people know that you're a trusted, credible person who can help them. So that being said, can you draw on any examples of any business owner who you've helped who are now flourishing?
You put me on the spot here. I can't think off the top of my head.
Have you had a lot of success stories though?
I mean, there's definitely people who've come together, or they've been inspired by the events that I've put on, and it's just anecdotal. They'll say, "Oh, I met such and such as a result of your events," or it was like the missing piece in the puzzle. Like they've found the support that they needed by coming to the events. But I don't know. Like, I'm reluctant to lay claim to it, because it's not just about me. I've just created an opportunity for these people to come together, and I do genuinely love that when I see people coming together. It's like, that's what I want. I want, like, you would never meet that person otherwise if you hadn't come together at the event. Actually, I mean, a recent example, again, they were probably going to do it anyway, but Haystack, which is a app and a platform for connecting developers with companies,
right,
like bypassing recruiters. Mike, who founded that, he was a developer. He was a mobile app developer and a software engineer. and he was in a job, and he was already thinking about starting something, and then he came to my last Startup Week event, and that he told me, I only found out a few months ago, he told me that was like a bit of a trigger for him to like, right, I'm definitely doing this after going, well, it's now Europe's fastest growing tech recruiter platform. Now, he would have done it anyway, and I'm not saying that's thanks to me, but for him to say, right, because of your event, I was more inspired to do it, and it kicked on with the idea. That's a success story for me. And there's definitely hundreds of people who've done similar things, but I don't know. I need to be a bit more pushy about people telling me that it's thanks to me or my events.
I think ultimately, mate, if you've set up a space for someone to go and, even if it is just meet that one person, it's not about claiming success for someone else, of course, but I think if credit's due, I think it's definitely worth saying. Like I would do the same. I think that's only right. I think it's helping yourself as well, because the more you know you're on the money with something, the more you know what you can continue to do to carry on with the success. Is there certain things that you can identify which make startups fail?
Definitely trying to do it all on their own, without tapping into a bit of an ecosystem, and not asking for help, because it's really hard. It's hard to do it all on your own. I mean, I'm a solo business owner, but I can't do everything on my own. I rely on my network. I've got people that I trust, and I can call on, not just for practical help with what I'm doing, but a bit of inspiration as well. Sometimes you're lacking in motivation, and you just need someone to give you a bit of a boost or get you back on track. So yeah, I think if people try to do it in isolation, and if they don't have, I mean, going back to that, the Tipping Point book, you need people who are the connectors in your network, but you need good sales and marketing as well. It doesn't matter how good your idea is or your product or service, if no one knows about it, you're not going to be successful.
Do you think the marketing side of things is more crucial than the actual idea itself?
There's definitely some average products or services have got amazing marketing that do really well, and there's some amazing products and services that have terrible marketing and do fail. So,
and what do you think about, is there a, because see, when I look at different startups and stuff and look at other, even ideas that I have, I often get into this scenario where I'm like, maybe it's saturated, maybe it's that market. But then I can't remember, so I don't want to quote them, but someone said about, there's no market that's really saturated, because there's nothing wrong with you just doing the same thing. Like, you don't have to even do it better. You don't even have to reinvent you can just do the same thing and just be another one in the marketplace. It's like, the analogy I used was, I think it was honey, different types of Manuka that they were selling in Asda or whatever supermarket it was, and they had like 3 or 4 honeys, and they added 5 and like another 2 honeys,
right,
and they started selling.
Right.
But then when they added 7, 8, and 9, they realised that people would stop buying these types because there's too many choice.
Right.
So it's almost like it's the balance between how do you identify what market is saturated or not? Do you know what I mean? Like, is there a type of business, like if someone's listening or watching to this, Paul, and like, I want to start a business, is there a type of business that they could, where you think, yeah, that type of business is more likely to succeed?
Okay, I'm going to go back to, I've already mentioned them before, like Sage, the accountancy software, right? So FTSE 100 software company, been around since the 80s, like the market leader. Everybody who does accounts or accounting has trained using Sage or knows about Sage. So you'd think we don't need another accountancy software, but you then had Cashflow, QuickBooks, Free Agent, Xero, all set up cloud-based accountancy software in direct competition with this huge company, FTSE 100 company. So when I worked for Sage, I was like, why are these companies wanting to take on this like huge giant? But they spotted a gap in the market. They could see that Sage was a bit of a cloud denier. I mean, it's hard to imagine it, but like they didn't think that online software was going to be a thing, or SaaS, software as a service, was going to be a thing. They were so focused on keeping the status quo and sending floppy disks or CDs through the post that
Crazy,
people get an
yeah.
upgrade once a year because they were making so much money from that. So they didn't want to disrupt their own market because they were making so much money there. But then you had these scrappy startups who were like, well, we're just going to sell things online, sell subscription software, and they've been very successful by doing that. Now, I did an interview with a free agent CEO recently, and he said some of that was their own naivety. They didn't actually realize, they didn't know what they were getting into. Mm-hmm. They just thought, well, I don't like using this current software. There's got to be a better way, and they just developed their own software. And then through a lot of trial and error, they hit on something, and then they've been successful. But some people have directly go against the market leader and just do something a little bit better. So if there's, I don't know, if there's already success in it for a product or a service, there's probably opportunity there as well.
So would you dissuade someone from a business idea that you thought would never work? Or would you think, yeah, maybe it wouldn't work for me, but it would for you? Do you know what I mean? Like, is there certain scenarios where you think, actually, that's a wild idea, but I think you could make it work?
I would say to people that they need to know what they're getting into, because I've definitely seen people who think they've got a great idea, but they don't know what's already out there in the market. Mm-hmm. So that lack of knowledge of what's already out there is a problem for them, because if they try to create something that's already there, the first thing people will probably say to them is, well, have you heard of such and such that's already doing what you're doing?
Yeah.
So they've got to have an answer for that. They've got to say, well, yes, they do that, but ours is better because of this. Mm-hmm. And if they don't have that market knowledge, then they're going to struggle. They're going to struggle to get clients or customers, or they're going to struggle to get investors, they're going to struggle to get a foothold in the market. I don't know, so whenever I've thought of someone, or I've come across someone who's done no market research and has no knowledge of the market, then that's a red flag. And I would say to them, look, you need to do a bit more homework.
Do you think because I don't know a lot about the funding side of things, mm-hmm. Is there a lot of opportunity for funding for startup businesses?
I mean, there's angel investors out there who are actively looking for businesses to put money into. Problem is, angel investors or high net worths who've got a bit of spare cash don't go around with a sign above their head. Mm-hmm. So again, it goes back to your network. If you don't have a network and you don't know how to find these people, you need to find people that can introduce you to them, or go to events where you're going to bump into these types of people. And that's I do have that a lot at the monthly events and the annual events. I'll have investors, angel investors, or venture capitalists speaking at the events, because they need to find deal flow as well. That's what people have to remember.
They've ultimately got to spend money, haven't they, as
well? So an angel investor or a high net worth, it's a bit different because they don't necessarily need to put the money into something. They just want to. Yeah. A lot of them have made a lot of money. They love doing deals and they love making money. So if you can go to them with an idea that they can see is going to make them more money, that's going to be of interest to them. Whereas a professional venture capitalist private equity firm, the way it works for them is they're like money managers. You know, other people are giving them money to invest into ideas. So they have to pitch to other people to get their money, that they will manage a portfolio and put into different companies. So they've got targets to hit as well. So they need deal flow. They need to be speaking to as many new ideas or opportunities as possible so they can present the best opportunities back to their investors ultimately.
So where do these people hang out? I know you're saying it's your network, but is LinkedIn a place to go to? Where, if you're someone who feels like you need investment, where do you seek these people out?
So again, I'm going to say my events. My events is one way, but mm-hmm. I don't know, the Ramside Hall, like the hangout in places like that, you know what I mean?
So physically, no, but what I'm saying is, okay, you've said Ramside Hall, right? I need investment. Do I just drive to Ramside Hall and how do I spot them? They don't have signs above their head.
No.
So how do I find those people? Like,
Yeah.
how do I get in touch with those people other than going to your network?
Yeah. So, I mean, accountants, lawyers, wealth management companies, that's where I would start. So, I mean, there's a lot of them are quite high profile, but there's definitely a bunch of wealth management companies in the northeast of England who I would go to them. I would say, look, do you know anyone who's looking to invest in some companies, and they do. You know, they have their job is to help high net worths invest their money in pensions or ISAs or put them into whatever vehicle to try and maximise their wealth.
So a bit of a random one, and I don't think I've shared this on a podcast, but I'll share it with you, Paul. I was actually supposed to go on The Apprentice, and quite recently actually. And what I realised was that I didn't actually need investment. I thought I did. Don't know why. I thought if I could have X amount of money, I could just go bang with the business. But what I realised is there was a certain headache attached to that. Of course, I didn't want to give away a certain percentage and all the rest of it. But the question I've got for you, how does someone know if they need investment?
I think a lot of people just think, oh, I just need money, and that'll like give me a bit of breathing space, and then I'll just be successful. But like you say, that it does come with headaches, because if someone's lending you some money or investing in your company, they want a return on that. It's not a gift. It's not a charity. Like they want something in return for that. So it's probably going to be a seat on the board, or they're going to be like overseeing what you're doing, and they're going to want to have regular meetings with you, and they're going to be pushing you to do certain things. And depending on the type of investment, they might ultimately push you out of the business at some point. You've got to go into it with the eyes wide open. A lot of the private equity venture capitalists, that's what they want. They want an exit within 3 or 5 years. So they'll put money into your business. They want to grow that as much as possible, and then ultimately sell that on to another investor or another business, so that they can get all their money back and more. Whereas an angel investor might not be so bothered about that. I don't think any high net worth individual or investor wants to lose money, but some are a bit more willing to write it off, and they're in it more for the ride and for the fun and the excitement of trying to build something new. But it's like my sister, she's very entrepreneurial. She's got loads of ideas, and her and her daughter have come up with an idea, an invention at the minute, and I'm helping them a bit with that. And she is reluctant to give any of that business away. And I said, well, I understand, but you will go faster with the cash injection. Yes, you can try and do it all on your own, but it's a physical product that they're trying to develop. And if they're trying to do it on their own, and they're scrimping and scraping and trying to do it on the cheap, they'll not achieve what they want to do unless they're willing to give away some shares in the company.
If you don't know by now, I run a business called The Content PT. I create content for influencers, PTs, online coaches and fitness brands all around the world. So if you are someone who's in need for sexy content for your social media, or you really want to maintain a competitive edge in your industry, drop me a DM on Instagram.
I think that's the thing as well. I think a lot of people almost get like a sense of control where they want to keep everything themselves. And I certainly realised that you've got to have people involved. I know we mentioned this earlier, you can't do it all alone. Like, in order to, for instance, your sister, her business may never get off the ground if she doesn't get the injection. And unfortunately, it's very hard when you've got the blinkers on and you're so passionate about something, because you're like, this is my baby, I don't want to give anything away. Well, do you own a production company? Can you manufacture these things on your own? You're probably going to benefit by it. But unfortunately, it's trying to find the right people who are not willing to take the piss, ultimately.
And there is that fear, and it does happen. Sometimes people rip you off and screw you over, but so you got to be careful who you invite in and who you work with. But yeah, she can't do it on her own. She's gonna have to trust some other people to help her achieve what she wants to do. So I'm helping her out with that. But I did an event recently where someone was speaking, and they grew their business and they raised investment, and then they ultimately exited the company. They sold their business to actually a client of theirs who was just a much bigger company who loved their tech platform so much that they bought it. But he said, what you got to realize is when you sell it, it's not your train set anymore. It's someone else's. Like, you're not in control anymore, and you've got to be comfortable with that. Because if you think you're going to get the money, someone's going to buy your business, and you can still control it, and you're not going to be happy.
That's why it's a good idea to not attach your name to the brand.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Because you don't want someone else, because your business could absolutely bomb it to the ground. Uh-huh. And if your name's riding on that, and I think that's, again, it's kind of making the disassociation, if you like, between personal brand and business. That's why the Content PT, I didn't want to put my name on it, because ultimately, if I ever want to get out that business and sell it, I want to be able to sell that network, them contracts and everything that comes with it. And I think once I put, it was the ad show, I don't want it to be like that. Yeah. So is there any other advice you give someone when they're setting up a business, like almost to future-proof themselves from them pits? Mm-hmm. So if we use the first example being, maybe he's not put your name on the business. Mm-hmm. Is there anything else?
No, I think what you said there is an important point, because like my business is me. Like, I am the business. Mm-hmm. So at the minute, like, people wouldn't buy my business off me, but they might buy the brands that I've created. So I've created the Startup Week Festival. So it was Newcastle Startup Week. Next year it's going to be Sunderland Startup Week. I've rebranded it, so it's UK Startup Week. So I could run it potentially anywhere, and there is like a format for that event. So I could sell that. The platform events that I've created, that's a brand as well, and that's potentially an online like platform to sit underneath that as well. I think I'm good at creating brands, like little mini brands, but I still see myself as like the inventor or the creator of coming up with these different brands, and that people seem to like. But I'm not totally tied to them. If I can still continue in my own right.
Would you ever do that? Would you ever sell Startup Week?
Yeah, I did explore that a few years ago. So just before the lockdown, actually, really? I was like speaking to a few people, but the message I got from people was like, we don't think we'd be able to run it as well as you could. So like,
well, that's the thing, isn't it? But then I suppose it's just right people, isn't it? For people starting a business, and again, if we use the analogy of you can't do it all alone, how does someone find a trusted business partner? I mean, you've got to get out. You've got to talk to people. Like, I think you've got to not be afraid to talk to people about your ideas, but don't tell them everything. You've got to, but like going to networking events, going to in-person events, online events. I still think in-person events are fantastic. Like, I get a lot of inspiration and ideas from being in a room. Not just my events, but other people's events as well. And any time I've had a new idea, I spend a lot of time talking about it to people just to see what reaction I get. So I'm like refining my ideas on the fly every conversation I have with someone. So I might have a very loose idea for something, but I'll talk to people. I'll have lots of meetings and coffees and just see what response I get to people. And then when I get a positive reaction from people, I know I'm onto something. Because I know that obviously, I've actually been to your event, so it's a bit different because I've experienced it. I understand it's a good event. That's what I'm getting at. I've also been to a lot of networking events, and they're absolutely shite. And they are, and I mean that in the most, like, up and down the UK, I've been to networking events where I've turned up, there's been a sandwich, a cup of tea, and people talk about the weekend. And I've been like, this is the biggest waste of time ever, to a point where I feel like a lot of the other people were just doing it to get out the house for an hour. How does someone identify like which event to go to? Obviously there's yours, and we'll leave the links and stuff in the description of this. There's a massive event obviously at Sunderland next year as well, which I want to touch on as well. But I feel like a lot of these events, people, yeah, it's networking, but in my experience, not a lot of has came out of them experiences. And I feel like, again, it's just lads who've got, you know, a bit of a business or a bit of a hobby and there's not really going on. How do you really know where the valuable events are? Because there'll be people in Manchester who can't come to your event. How do they scope out the real, do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. So when's networking not working? That's
Aye,
good thing.
yeah, that's brilliant.
There's definitely a lot of them. I think there's certain events which are literally just, people are just going for a coffee and a chat. Like you say, that it's just getting them out of the office, giving them and then they can say to their manager or the boss, oh, I went out, I did a bit business development, I did a bit of networking, and nothing comes of it. So it's just a sort of bit of a tick box exercise, or just to show that they've done something. Sometimes there is value in that, you know, maybe it is just a social thing, you know, you're just catching up with people you haven't seen for a while. So I think there is some benefit in that for a lot of people. But if you're trying to grow your business, my event, I don't want my events to be like that. I want people to have a little bit of networking, but I want people to come away inspired. They've learned something new. They've formed some new connections. They're excited about starting or growing a business. And obviously I'm biased, but the feedback I get in the room and after the event shows that I'm doing that well. You know, that is the response I'm looking for. I'm achieving. I don't know. Like I would say, some of the establishment organisations, membership organisations, they're just going through the motions. Yeah. They're just putting on events and they don't really know why they're doing it.
You get spammed a bit on LinkedIn and stuff from these type of events.
Yeah, and sometimes it is like to justify the membership fee as well. So it's like, okay, become a member, and then there's X number of events that you can come along to, but it's very loose. There's no promise of anything. It's just like, we'll put on an event and there'll be some teas and coffees and over to you. It's all down to you to make that work. And some people are good at that. Some people are good at working the room and, you know, networking and getting something out of it. But it tends to be all sales, either all salespeople or people who are in public sector jobs where they're paid to be a business advisor but not actually do any. It's not their business.
Yeah, I know. It's because, I mean, while I've got
time is money, you know, like that's the thing that you've got to be quite. And
that's what I mean. I feel like because I've spent that many. Honestly, I couldn't tell you how many hours I've actually. And I suppose it's like the whole university thing. Some people would say it's a waste of money. Some people would say, yeah, well, I went out on the drink most nights, but then I actually came out my shell and got introduced to this person. I got my first job as a barman or whatever. Like, so I do think there's some merit in that. But would you pay 30 grand to go and get a job in a bar? Probably not. I've been part of seminars, masterminds, different types of courses, and I've spent quite a bit of money on over the years. And what I've often found is, and it's not always a bad thing, what I've often found is I don't learn a lot, but I actually end up paying for either accountability or I end up paying for someone to tell me what I already know, which can be quite valuable. Like, yeah, you're on the money, keep doing it. So while it can seem like a swizz, I feel like it depends on the perception of the person going to the event as well and what they truly want from it. And I've actually developed an online mentorship and program myself because I was sick to death. And I'm going to ask you this question while I've got you. But I was sick to death of people saying, so Ads, how did you manage from working in the corporate world to actually running a business, travelling about and that? And I'm just sick of just giving people the time. And I know that sounds bad because I want to help people, but I can't just give you me time all the time. And it's like, okay, I'll put it all in one place. If you want to work, let's do something. And for you, while I've got you, because again, you've dealt with that many people, far more than the people who ask me questions. How does someone properly transition from a workplace environment to starting a business? Because a lot of people straight away, it's a risk. I can't leave my job. Oh, well, I've got a mortgage to pay. I've got the kids. But you know, they've got that passion inside them. They really want to work for themselves. They're sick of working for someone else. The same stuff. And again, what is security in a normal job anyway? It's not even the same thing anymore. Yeah. So how does someone actually make that transition? What would you recommend?
I'm quite a big fan of like doing things alongside, like testing the waters alongside a day job. So if someone has an idea, I wouldn't encourage people to just ditch their job and start a business. So it's the idea of straddling the two things at the same time is worth doing. But you've got to get started. You know, if you're serious about it, you've actually got to do something. Whether that's so, I don't know. It's hard. Like, same thing. I've given a lot of advice away for free, but I've created a online mentoring program, and people have to pay for that.
Yeah.
Because there's a commitment and accountability there. People are more likely to do it if they paid something for it. So I don't know. Come to the events. I don't know. Just get started. I don't know.
Because again, I always draw back on my own experiences, and this is the thing, because I've been fortunate enough to do some unbelievable things. But you know, when I look back, I think the time when I left the corporate world was so much of a risk. But actually, it sounds cliche, the bigger risk was staying in that position. Yeah. And it takes doing it to know. And I had things on the line, responsibilities. I wasn't living at home with my mum. It was like I was living on my own and all the rest of it. And it was like, you're right. I think people have just got to somehow find a way to even start slowly doing something simultaneously alongside. But it's trying to give people that, well, I'm knackered after work. I don't want to work at 10 o'clock at night. And my answer would be, well, then you don't want it enough. Yeah. And I feel like you've got to have that. And people will argue with that and be like, well, no, I've got kids. I've got this. I've got kids too. Yeah. I feel like you've got to want it. Yeah. You've really got to want it. And I feel like it's helping people understand that it is possible for anybody. Yeah.
Well, it might be a slow burn, because it was for me, you know, like like I said before, I've been in jobs where I was helping others to grow their business or be successful, and then I was reading all the books and I was going to the events, and just by assimilation, like I was just absorbing all this information and being inspired until it almost like built up inside me. I was like, I've got to do something. Like, I don't know what it is that I want to do, but I want to do something. And then it got to a point where I had an opportunity to do that. But I don't know, I'm not a massive Harry Potter fan. Are you a Harry Potter fan?
I'm not, actually. I'm not, man.
Right, you might not know what I'm talking about, but some of the people listening to this or watching this might know what it is. But there's a thing, like, a place called Diagon Alley. It's just like this other parallel world of like wizards, and like it's just a street to the side. So I think of entrepreneurship like that. Like, there's entrepreneurs and business owners all around us, but when you're in a job, it's hard to see, because you just think this is the world. It's just I'm in employment and I can't see out of that. But you've got to dip your toe in the water, or just like look behind the curtain, or
because that's what used to. I could see it so clearly, right? When I worked for anybody else, you're almost conditioned. Again, I must stress that if you're happy in your normal job, great, keep doing that. But because I wasn't. But I felt like everyone around us, all my peers, all my colleagues, were very conditioned to believe, you know, you do this, you do your overtime, you go to, you know, you go for your lunch break when they say, and all the rest of it, which I understand that's how the workplace works. But my understanding was, this very workplace is set up by an entrepreneur. So the trickle-down effect, which sometimes you're at the brunt end of, is what an entrepreneur wants. So it's almost like you're doing an entrepreneur's job but you're kind of bullshitting yourself a little bit. Because it's like, I believe, and that's why I asked you earlier about, do you think you're born an entrepreneur? I believe everyone's an entrepreneur. I really do. I believe there's not a single person you could pluck out of a job and they couldn't make money themselves. But I just feel like they haven't found the tools. Yeah. Some people take a risk to find the tools. I don't quote us on this, but it was from Apple, and someone said, so they went round, I can't remember who said it now, it's going to do my head in that, but basically they went round someone got the access to all the top CEOs of the world, and they looked at Tim Cook and they said, how do you describe working for Apple? And he turned around and said, it's the hardest job in the world, but we'll make the tools feel the lightest in the world. Okay. And I love that, because I feel like, for me, a lot of people feel like, and I'm not saying there's no risk involved, and trust us, I work 7 days a week, so I know it's hard. But I also know, if I don't want to work for 2 days, I don't have to. So some people need to understand that actually entrepreneurship can fit their life better. And it's not about making loads of money. It's about, can I do something that I enjoy and get by? And I think a lot of people want this, the riches and the diamonds and all the things they say on social media, but actually entrepreneur, it may just be, well, I'm not a school teacher anymore. I teach education online while I get to go to the park with my little one as well. That's entrepreneurship. You work less, you could arguably make even more money and have a life you want to live. Now, I would always advocate that. Like, I'd always say it. Like, I would always urge anyone to have a go. I feel like if you're in a job, though, unfortunately, you don't get to see, oh, shit, that's possible. I can do that too. So it's trying to help people understand that. And, like, someone like yourself, you've done it. You've worked in the jobs. And now look what you're doing with other people. So it's like, and that's why I would always say the same thing. But it's how do you help? No, I wouldn't say convince, because I feel like if you need convincing, then it's probably not for you anyway. But how do you show people that there's a life in entrepreneurship? So how do you do that on your programs and everything you kind of teach?
Yeah. Well, the mentoring that I do, it's all business owners. So it's mostly people who have already got their own business and they're maybe just a little bit stuck. So I do quite a bit of work with people who are awesome at what they do. They're just struggling with one or two areas of the business. Usually it's sales or marketing. They're really like fantastic at what they do, but they're just not very good at sales and marketing. So I'll help them with that. Or people who've just lost their mojo and just need a reminder of why they started their own business and why they're set up in the first place and what they're hoping to get out of it. So to get them back on track, that's the program that I do is very good at that. I mean, again, I feel like I'm talking about my events a lot, but obviously I'm putting on events. Fine. But that's the point of these events, is to show people, like, get them in that positive mindset and get them in that environment where they're like, oh, it is possible. There are people just like me who are just a little bit further on that I can be inspired from and I can learn from, and it feels more achievable because they were in my position before, and then they took that step to start their own business.
So, you know, there when you said about the sales and marketing, that's kind of the bit that they struggle on. What makes people shit at sales and marketing? Like, I want to be, because I feel like a lot of people beat around the bush about the sales and marketing, and that's why I just want to address it, because, like, for me, I know, like, I am horrendous at timekeeping.
Right.
The world's worst. In terms of, for everyone else, I'm okay. For me, I'm really bad. So I let myself down. And that's an issue. So and it may come from, I'll put more work than what I need to into a client project. But I know that, well, actually, the client will be happy with that. You don't need to give it that extra 2 hours. But now that's affected this project. That's what so I know that I could definitely benefit by having someone, whether it was another VA or a PA, and just to be like, look, ads, we need to manage your time a little better. Look, use working blocks instead of just working at 9 o'clock at night when you want. Learning to shut off, I struggle with that. What do you find that makes people bad at sales and marketing? Like, what is it that they struggle with?
I think people struggle with sales and marketing if they're, especially if they are the person providing the service. So if they're a service-based company, they feel uncomfortable selling themselves and talking about themselves and asking for money directly. Whereas if it's a product, they're more comfortable doing that. And I would include myself in that. I'm better than I used to be, but I find it a lot easier to sell products or services than me, if you know what I mean.
I get
that. I find it much easier to sell tickets and sponsorship for Startup Week than asking people to pay for my time or my services, because it's a bit more personal. And
so how do you have that money conversation then? Because again, a lot of people who click on the title of this video is because it's startup related or business related. How does someone? Because I'm the same. I struggled with this when I started a few years back. Now, again, I think it comes with doing it, and then people understand the pricing structure, they understand how you work, and they see the value. But how does someone actually have that money conversation, whether picking up the first client or whatever it may be?
Well, you said a good word there, value. So it's like, what value is this to the person that you're dealing with? So pricing's really difficult, especially when you first start, because like you just want the work. You just take whatever I can get. I don't know how much to charge. That's always an awkward conversation when people are like, what's your day rate?
It's not worse.
Like, well, what's your budget? No one wants to tell you what the budget is, and you don't want to tell them what your day rate is. So someone has to...
It's like a game of chess, isn't it?
Someone has to say a price. And if they say, yeah, no problem, you're probably undercharging. If they go, that's a bit much, it's like, then you know you're probably onto something, and you can maybe negotiate a little bit. But talk about consultative selling as well. So like understand what, like, you got to dig deeper. If someone comes to you for conversation about the products or the services that you can provide, you got to understand what challenges that they've got, what impact that's having on their business. Don't give them a price straight away. You've got to understand. Okay, if you could overcome this barrier, what value would be that? What value would that be to your business? Try and get them to give you some clues, and then you go away, and then you come back with a price. So that's a bit of a wishy-washy answer.
No, but it's good because you're breaking it in again. It's like, I'm trying, for this particular episode, I want the people who are watching it, I want them to understand that they may just be starting out in business, but them little nuggets that you can give there, they might say, actually, okay, it's not easy, because he's been in business for 6 years and he's struggling about it.
Yeah, still, even now, to this day. Like, few years back, I did some consultancy work with a serial launcher, but a very successful guy. We agreed 6 months of consultancy work, agreed a fee. I was really happy with that fee, and after we'd agreed the fee, he said, you could have charged a lot more than that. And he said, you've got to understand the difference between price and value. He said, what you're going to give me is going to be massive value, and I would have paid you probably twice as much. I wish you'd told us that.
Yeah, and see that the problem is that I've faced with the pricing side of things in the past is I have really high profile clients, and then I have clients who have literally just started in the fitness world. So what I can't do is, I know you can offer tiers and different packages, but my higher profile clients have got sponsors, they've got brand deals. So the content that I deliver to them, they're going on to make thousands of pounds per week from the content. The content I'm delivering to the guys who are just starting, they're literally spending all their wages on the content to hopefully get a lead. That's the difference. So it's very hard to say, well, you can have the same content as them for a tenth the price, because then it's the same, because it's me. I can't give them less quality work, less of it, because they need it more, arguably. But the topper ones, the higher ones, are making more money. So it's very hard. Paul,
but even the people who are really successful and got loads of money, often really tight as well.
Yeah, you find that as well.
They don't want to spend money, and they want. So then you've maybe got to work harder to explain why you justify that price and what value you're going to give to them. And it's not just the creation of the content in your case. It's the customer service. It's the aftercare. It's all the additional stuff that they wouldn't get elsewhere. Yeah. It's that, like, X factor or whatever people are drawn to you in the first place that they're not going to get from any other place.
Well, that's why I'm very selective about who I work with, because anybody, it could be at the detriment of me, but anybody who I've ever worked with, they're like me friends. So the ads, I've got this problem. What can I? And I'm like, bloody hell! Like, we started this working relationship on content 3 years ago, and now we're like literally going out for lunch. It's a lovely place to be in, but at the same time, that's still work.
Yeah.
Because it's still I'm making a sacrifice elsewhere.
Yeah. Do you charge for that? Or do you
I don't.
Your price?
No, I don't. And that's the thing. So it's like, I don't add that to my price. I just.
It's business development. It's like it is. Like, if you were in a bigger company, if you were in a corporate, that would be like client entertainment.
Yeah, and it's like, even doing the podcast, I know that I'll lose money doing this podcast. I lose quite a bit of money doing this podcast. But at the same time, I also understand that this is actually just strengthening my network. So the more podcasts I do, the next thing you know, I've got clients out the podcast, which is crazy, because that wasn't ever the plan. But at the same time, I think it's understanding, can whatever you're doing outside of the business realm that you're in, can that complement the business? Because you don't want to just constantly make sacrifices. You want to try and help the main thing you're doing.
It's going to set you apart, isn't it? It's like, okay, there'll be other people who do similar things to you, but they don't do the podcast, and it's very visual, obviously, and like people are seeing, oh bloody hell, that's a bit different. Like,
Yeah.
so I want to be associated with him.
Just trying to think outside the box and just be a bit more creative. And again, it's adding value, I think, ultimately. For the Sunderland Startup Week next, what's the month next year? June next year. Should know this. June next year. What can people, because we'll put the links in for people to grab tickets and all that type of stuff, but what can people expect to get out of that week? Who is the type of person who should be getting a ticket?
Yeah, so we've touched on it a bit before. So it's called Sunderland Startup Week. So it's not just for people in Sunderland, and it's not just for startups, right? It's called that because it's a week-long event for 5 days, Monday to Friday. It takes place in Sunderland, but it is for anyone who wants to start something new. So if they want to start a new business, or if you want to bring a new product or service to market, there's going to be something for you in that week. So over the 5 days, Monday to Friday, each day has a different theme. Monday is Inspiration Day, so that's all about celebrating success stories of the past, present and future for the northeast of England primarily, although I probably will have some people from outside the region there as well. So that's a day that anybody can come along and be inspired. So whether you're in a job and you're thinking of starting a business, or you've recently started, or you're already in business, or you're a corporate who wants to be an entrepreneur, or you want to tap into that market, you're a funder, you're an investor, like everyone will come to that day. And this is based on the events I've done previously. So my target is 550 people there, because that's the venue capacity at the fire station. But 550 people on day one, on Inspiration Day. Day two's getting started, so that's more your practical first steps to bring ideas to life. So if that would be a slightly smaller audience, but if you're in the early stages of starting a business or a new product or service, that's the day to go to. Day three is funding and finance, so that's where the grants, the loans, crowdfunding, angel investors, private equity, venture capital. If you want money to start or grow a business, or you just want to understand the different types of funding that's out there and what it takes to get that funding and whether it's right for you or not, that's a day to go to. So that day is a bit of a crossover day. People at businesses of all sizes will go to that day. Day four is growing and scaling. So that's all about how do you take things to the next level. So sales, marketing, business development, leadership, mindset, building a team, building a network, partnerships, national, international expansion. That's the day to go to, and you tend to get a lot of established and later stage companies will go to that day. And then the final day, keep going or pivot, is how do you keep going? Do you keep going? Do you stop? Do you change direction? How do you know what's working, what's not? And resilience and mindset and all that sort of stuff. So over the 5 days, those themes, that's based on my own experience of all the jobs that I've done and running my own business and all the conversation I've had. I think those 5 stages, every new business or new product or service goes through those 5 stages. So the idea is that in 5 days you can learn and speed up how you do things. You can learn in 5 days what maybe take you 5 months to learn, all in one place. And you can come to all 5 days, or you can just come to 1 day, you can come to 2 days. It doesn't matter. It's one ticket, gives you a wristband for all 5 days. So yeah, like I say, I'm expecting 550 plus people to come to the event. Anyone.
How much are the tickets?
They're £100 for all 5 days.
Now, and because obviously I've been to your Newcastle ones, and I'm not just trying to plug it here, £100 to get 5 days of packed full of value to literally take from start to starting a business. It's a steal lot. Like, in that, I'm not genuinely, mate. I know you haven't told us to say that. That £25 a day, you could change your life in a week.
Exactly, and you will. You know, like everybody will be there. Everybody who's worth knowing.
Yeah.
Will be there in the business community, and you talked about how do you find investors? Well, they're going to be there. Like the angel investors are going to be there. The private equity, venture capitalists, they're all going to be there. The people who can help you take your business to the next level will be there, and I think that's one thing I'm really really good at is like curating events, and I'm a good talent spotter as well, and I'm good at bringing all the best people together in one place. So if you've not been at one of my events before, like come along to that in June. But the monthly events, the platform events, that's like a little taster of what you can expect, and they're free to attend the platform events every month.
Paul, thank you so much for your time, mate.
You're welcome. Thank you very much.
Did you enjoy it?
I did, yeah.
Thank you, mate. Cheers.
Thanks.
Thanks a lot.
So you've made it to the end of this one. You're brave. But if you like this episode and you want to see more like this, click here and watch it.